All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Quick Bricks NBA DFS podcast, brought to you by the good guys over at Fantasy Degens. As always, Sean Mitchell here at SMitchell17. Hopefully, everybody is enjoying their Tuesday already. Apologies on not getting the pod out yesterday. Like I said, I woke up. You can probably still tell by the way I'm talking, but I'm just congested. Fall weather, shit that's going on always gets me every single year. So, nonetheless, we got 6 games on the slate today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the article I put out yesterday. I actually had a pretty good night last night, hit 333, played 2 single entries, and turned $5 into 20. So it's a pretty good night. I just saw over breaking slates over at Fantasy Degens. Also had a really good night last night. He hit 350 and put up a nice little score. Almost made $90. So good job, Brian. Nice lineup last night. Let's move right along. Looks like there was a couple Fantasy Degens. Sorry that made some money last night. So good job, guys. Good work. Hopefully we will carry that over into tonight. So we only have a 6-game slate as mentioned. Let's roll it off. We got Lakers at the Pacers. Lakers minus 4.5 here on the road. No total. Waiting to see, some more information. I'm not even really sure who's, even questionable. I got AD, is questionable every single game, but he's probable every game as well. So it'll be interesting. I know he was he was hampered by a little bit of injury after last game, so that one will be something to monitor. But nonetheless, this is obviously going to be a game that we're going to look to target. Over the last 5 games in terms of pace, you have the Lakers coming in as the 9th fastest team. Indiana, the 5th. I was really shocked to see Indiana coming in as the 5th fastest team over the last 5 games. That's just not something that we've seen from Indiana this year. Nonetheless, they're running pretty fast here lately. So that's a pretty good game. Obviously, like I said, not really a big spread. Lakers only 4.5 here on the road. Both teams been running really fast, so this game could potentially be a shootout. Kings at the Hornets. Sacramento minus 4.5, 206 on the total, real low total. Sacramento 30th in terms of pace over their last 5, and Charlotte is 26th. So you have 2 teams that are just running total snail pace here. It's a small spread. Both teams have kind of not really been fast all year long, especially Charlotte or Sacramento. Sacramento should be getting De'Aaron Fox back. They've been working Marvin Bagley back in, so they're getting some of their pieces back. They should be a lot better coming in the next few weeks. The Hornets have continued to stuck around, been halfway par, fair to Midland, I should say. Like I said, low total on this one, but there's a few spots we like. Hawks at the Knicks, New York minus 1.5 here at home, 220 on the total. Second highest total on the board at the moment. Atlanta running with the 7th highest pace over their last 5. New York Knicks 25th. So Knicks really slow, Atlanta really fast. Nice pace up spot here for the Knicks. Nets at the Pelicans, Brooklyn minus 1.5 here on the road in New Orleans. 232 on your total for your highest total of the night. Brooklyn 15th in the last 5 in terms of pace. The Pelicans 10th. Pelicans have been inside the top 10 all year long. Brooklyn was in the top 10 for a while. Jumped out, kind of slowed down a little bit. But nonetheless, we know this game is going to have a lot of pace. It's going to be one of the games to stack. There's a lot of plays on both sides that you're going to have to look at. That was going to be a good game as well. We know it's going to be chalky, but that's all right. 6 games, we really can't pick and choose too awful much. So that one's going to be half the game that we're going to have some exposure to. Magic at the Jazz, playing in Utah. Utah minus 5.5 here, 206 on the total. Orlando 27th, Utah 16th. So a little small pace-up spot here for Orlando. Utah's been playing with a little bit of pace here lately. They were in the top 10 there for a week or two. So Utah is interesting. A couple spots in that one we like. Suns on a back-to-back. The only team playing on a back-to-back in all 6 games versus the Clippers. Clippers minus 13 here at home. No total on the board. Phoenix, obviously waiting on Devin Booker news. Phoenix running with the 2nd highest pace over the last 5, and the Clippers are 4th. So I totally expect this total to be up there, probably in the 228-ish or above range. So even though the spread is 13 for the Clippers, without Devin Booker, this game seems a little bleak. So keep that in mind. Okay, rolling right on to the positions. Point guard, LeBron James at the point guard spot. Obviously, on DraftKings, he plays multi-positions. So, LBJ at 10.9, 55 or more in his last 5, over 60 in his last 3 or 4, 34.2% usage rate in his last 5. Obviously, LeBron is going to, if AD for whatever reason doesn't play, you kind of have to play LBJ, a single LBJ there. Devontae Graham at 7'8", he's now put up 48, 36, 48, 63, and 40 in his last 5 at home. 28.6% usage rate there at home in his last 5 as well. And we know Sacramento has struggled against the point guard spot, and now getting De'Aaron Fox back, who was actually worse against the point guard spot as far as defending goes. Devontae Graham at 7'8", big fan of, especially here at home against the Kings. Drew Holiday at 7.7 versus Orlando here, 50 fantasy points last game, put up 38 or more in his last 4 or 5 at home. Brooklyn, allowing quite a bit of points at that point guard spot. Drew Holiday is the starting point guard. 26.8% usage rate in his last 5 at home. So Drew Holiday at 7.7 continues to play really well. Nobody really talks about him, but he's a baller. Spencer Dinwiddie will take the price drop here. He's been over 8K for I don't know how long. Kyrie is still out. He is 7.5K. He's put up 38 or more in his last 7 of 8. Like I said, we'll take the $500 to $600 to $700 price reduction here, playing against New Orleans in a very, very fast paced game. He likely will get Drew Holiday, but at 7.5K, you really just got to kind of plug and play this one. New Orleans 9th most fantasy points to that point guard spot over the last 5. Dinwiddie's averaging 37.1 fantasy points on the road this year. So, I don't really think it's going to be hard to fade Dinwiddie. Malcolm Brogdon at 7.4 is also going to be pretty hard to fade. 36 or more in his last 3 of 5. He's averaging 36.2 fantasy points at home. A smidge under 25% usage rate in his last 5 at home, which leads the team at 24.9%. So Brogdon getting a good matchup here against the Lakers. At home, I think it's a really, really fine play at 7.4. I think it's definitely cash worthy, and I'm thinking he's definitely fine for tournaments tonight. Elfrid Payton on the lower end at 5.2. Atlanta allowing the second most fantasy points to the point guard spot over the last 5. He's put up 26, 29.5, and 38.8 in his last 3. He's played 30, 27, and 25 minutes. He's getting the bulk of the run at the point guard spot. Even Frankie Smokes played 24 minutes last game. So they're kind of rotating a little bit of a guard rotation there, but it seems to be Elf's job at the point guard spot. So him at 5.2 versus Atlanta, I'm totally fine with, and I think it's a pretty good price. If you want to take a chance on Lonzo Ball, he's still getting decent run. He's, played 23 or more minutes in his last 9 games still. He's played 27 or so in his last 3 or 4. He's only 5K. He's put up 21 or more fantasy points in his last 3 or 4 as well. He's not getting, that kind of run that we want. So I don't blame you if you want to fade, because I think I probably will with this much as around him. So that's kind of just my spill on Lonzo. Again, Frankie Smokes has played 21 and 24 minutes in his last 2. He's only 3.6K. He put up 34.3 fantasy points last game against Denver, a team that, is usually pretty good against the point guard spot. So Frankie Smokes might be feeling it a little bit. So if you want to play him at 3.6, I think he's a nice punt play. Shooting guard spot, Donovan Mitchell at 7.8 tops it. 37 or more in his last 4 or 5, 37 plus in his last 3 or 4 at home. Orlando is allowing sixth most fantasy points to the shooting guard spot over their last 5. Joe Ingles, I really hope that with Conley coming back, this does not mess up Joe Ingles, but more than likely it will. I hate to see it, because Joe Ingles has been playing really freaking well lately. 5.7 tonight, over 31 minutes. Over 31 fantasy points in his last 5 of 6, over 27 minutes in his last 6. Joe Ingles was getting a lot of good run. He looked like, the Joe Ingles of the years prior, since they brought in Bouillon and kind of kicked him to the curb on the bench. Like I said, it sucks. It's something worth monitoring. I don't know if you can. I've been playing Joe Ingles like almost 100% nightly ever since Conley has been out, and they've been starting Moutier and allowing Donovan to run the point. He's been getting massive amounts of run and decent usage. So that kind of sucks. I hope that doesn't stop. We will have to watch it, though. Bogdan at 5.3. Kind of broke out of his slump last game. 29 minutes, 38.8 fantasy points against Golden State. Of course, it is Golden State. They do allow a lot of points to the shooting guard spot. Nonetheless, he's in a decent spot tonight, playing against the Hornets. They are allowing decent amounts of points to the shooting guard spot and point guard spot. Bogdan should get his usual nice run off the bench, so he will likely see, a backup like Malik Monk. which is great news because Malik is not that great on defense. So Bogdan at 5.3 is a great tournament play. 28.6% usage rate in that game where he put up 38 last game. So 28 or more minutes in his last 5. He's getting the run. He's getting the minutes. He's taking shots. He just, like I said, he just really hadn't been connecting lately. And then he finally broke out last game. So hopefully we catch him on a little bit of a heat streak here and just jump on him in tournaments for tonight. RJ Barrett, I believe, is in a huge buy low spot here at 4.5K. Atlanta allowing the number 2 fantasy points to the shooting guard spot over the last 5. He's played 31 or more minutes in 4 of his last 5, 36 or more minutes in 3 of his last 5. And in his last 3 home games, 31.3, 27.3, and 28.8. So you're getting a massive amounts of value here on RJ Barrett at 4.5K at home. They've been on a long road streak here. They've played their last 5 games on the road. That's why his price has dwindled, is because he just really has been trash here lately. But getting him back into MSG, I think, is going to spark him back up. 4.5K, you really got to. It's just cheap for the minutes that he's playing. It's cash worthy. I think that his floor is fine. Like I said, his home and road splits are a little bit different. So take the small price on Barrett at 4.5K. Contavious Caldwell-Pope continues to play lots of minutes, 27 or more minutes in his last 5. He's put up over 19 fantasy points in all 5 of those games. He's only 4.1. If you find yourself needing just a small 4K filler spot, KCP can do that for you. The next guy can as well, Landry Shamet at 3.4. We know Phoenix against shooting guards is a thing. 21 minutes last game in his return, put up 17 fantasy points. Likely, I want to say that Shamet will go back to his starting shooting guard role, and the Kawhi will go back to the 3, and PG will go to the 4. That would be what I would think. That would be what I would do, but I don't know if that's what will happen. So that's something we want to monitor. Obviously, if Shamet is going to start at 3.4, against Phoenix, I think you're kind of going to have to play him at 3.4K. So keep that one in mind. Rolling over to small forward, started off with Kawhi, 9.4. Nice little pace game, of course, here with Phoenix at home. 58, 42, and 59 in his last 3. 33.1% usage rate in his last 3 as well. Leads the team. Kawhi's good. Brandon Ingram at 8.1. His price went back up. 39 or more in his last 4. 39 plus at home in 5 of his last 6. 27.1% usage rate in his last 5 at home. Brandon Ingram, of course, gets a good spot against the Pelicans here. Bigs against Pelicans is a thing. Any kind of forward against the Nets. Sorry. Any bigs against the Nets is a good thing. So Brandon Ingram is absolutely in play at 8.1. Buddy Hield at 7.2. Kind of missed him in the shooting guard, so put him over here in small forward. Really like Buddy. Once again, I don't think that Fox coming back is going to hurt him as much. I think Fox will probably be on some kind of minutes restriction. Over 40 fantasy points in his last 3 of 5 on the road, 33-plus minutes in his last 12 games, over 40 fantasy points in his last 7 of 9. Buddy Hield has been balling lately, so I think there's value still at his price at 7.2. Kelly Oubre at 6.7, 30 or more in his last 4. Devin Booker, if he's seen a nice little nice little usage bump without Booker. 37 more minutes in his last 3 games. Seen minutes boost too. So Oubre's playing big, huge chunks of minutes, and he's putting up 30-plus fantasy points tonight. So if Booker happens to sit again, that will be one you kind of have to look at. John Isaac at 6.4, not the greatest matchup here in Utah. Nonetheless, put up 46.8 last game versus New Orleans, and now he's put up 33 or more fantasy points in his last 3 of 4. He should have had a double-double in basically his last almost 5 games. His last 2 put up were 10 and 9, 10 points, 9 rebounds, 19 and 8 rebounds. He just hasn't got to that double-double point, but he's been playing really damn well lately. And it's not really a bad spot here. Nobody's going to look at him at 6.4 in Utah, but it's a decent spot. Utah runs with a little bit of pace, so this can be a pace-up spot for Orlando. I don't mind John Isaac. Marcus Morris Sr. at 6.2 Atlanta against small forwards, allowing the 3rd most fantasy points over the last 5. He's put up over 30 fantasy points in his last 6 of 8 at home. Sorry. So Marcus Morris continues to be that staple cash game play. Playing back at home against the Hawks tonight, I think it's a great spot. So, I'm totally fine with Marcus Morris at 6.2. Harrison Barnes at 5.4, 28 or more fantasy points in his last 5 of 6, over 33 minutes in about every game this year. He will not be affected. He continues to see huge chunks of minutes. That's what we've come to know from Harrison Barnes. He's going to play about all game. His usage rate is not very, high. He doesn't, shoot the lights out, but he's consistent. He's one of the more consistent players in the NBA. Josh Hart at 4.7, over 30 minutes in his last 3 of 4, 27.5, 24.8, 32.8 in his last 3. Josh Hart is, kicking it back up. Gets a good spot here against the Nets at home. So Josh Hart at 4.7, I think, is a great play. Mikal Bridges at 4.4. If Booker sits again, he's been one of the beneficiaries of the minutes and the usage. 31 or more minutes in his last 3 or 4. He's put up 34.5, 27, and 31 fantasy points in 3 of those 4. Mikal Bridges has been playing really well. So it's not the greatest spot against the Clippers at home, but if you look at this in terms of, if this game gets out of hand, you could easily see Bridges get 30-plus minutes here in garbage time. And at 4.4, I think I like the value on that. Royce O'Neal at 3.7, of course, playing against Orlando at home, 28 or more. Orlando allowing the 4th most fantasy points to the small forward spot over their last 5. He's put up 28 and 29.3 in his last 2 at home. Found that pretty interesting. So at 3.7, we know Royce O'Neal is going to get tons and tons of minutes. He's been starting at the small forward spot and playing good minutes. So the DVP is right. He's played good minutes, and he's really cheap. Tournament play if you want to do that. Power forward, Anthony Davis, 10.5, 49 or more in his last 3 on the road. Indiana allowing the 4th most fantasy points to the power forward spot over the last 5. So AD, of course, in a great spot, as we know, if he does play, which he's probable, I believe. So, AD, we know we don't really have to extend too much on him. PG-13, 66, 44 in his last 2. Gets Phoenix at home. 35% usage rate in his last 5. Leads the team. PG-13, of course, a lot of that usage came from the game that Kawhi sit, so that is why probably it is inflated. Nonetheless, PG's been getting good run and good usage either way. Julius Randle is one that I really, really like against Atlanta at 7K, 36 or more in his last 4 or 5. Should have had a double-double in his last 4 or 5 as well. In his last 2, he's put up 20 points and 9 rebounds, 26 points and 9 rebounds, and then he had an off game, and then before that 2 games, he had 24 and 13, 16 and 12. So Julius Randle's been playing really well lately, been putting up some monster numbers, and he gets a good spot here against Jabari Parker and the Hawks at home. So Julius Randle, I think, is probably one of my more favorite plays, and he could be the roster monster or not. I will not confirmed yet, but he's in a good spot. Bouillon at home against Orlando at 6.2. He just put up 40.5 last game. Is he heating up? 29 or more in his last 3 or 5. Bouillon is a streaky player. Once he starts hitting, he goes on 3 or 4 game streaks where he just smashes. So Bouillon be one to look at. Dario Saric at 6K. The Clippers are allowing the 8th most fantasy points to the power forward spot over the last 5. He's put up 28 or more in his last 4 or 5. Over 30 in his last 3 of 5. So Saric has been playing well as well. Taurean Prince, I think, is a great tournament play at 5.5. Nobody ever plays him. He gets New Orleans on the road tonight. Over 30 minutes in his last 7 of 8 games. He's put up 32, 36, and 43 fantasy points in his last 3 at home. Or on the road, sorry. So you be the judge. I think I like Taurean Prince just a little bit there. Moving on to the center spot, we have Rudy Gobert at 7'9". Over 40 fantasy points in his last 4. He's put up a double-double on his last 9. Gets Orlando at home with Vucevic returning. Vucevic is okay at defense. He's not the greatest. Not anything that I would fade for. So I think Rudy is still the top center spot. Below him at Vucevic at 7.3. He played 29 minutes last game, put up 36.3 fantasy points. We could see him play over 30 minutes tonight. He played 29. So it's not out of reach. It's not out of the realm of possibility. He's only 7.3, which is really cheap. So Boost at 7.3, take advantage of the price right now is all I can say. Cody Zeller at 5.4. Yeah, there's really not a whole lot that I like in the center spot. It's either pay up or basically play kind of a back row, because I think a lot of the guys have some really good spots off the bench, like Cody Zeller, which, I mean, it's Biyombo's been starting. So he played 29 minutes last game, put up 40.5 fantasy points. He's now put up 28 or more in his last 4 of 6. Cody Zeller continues to play pretty consistent. DeAndre Jordan, I think, obviously has a better because Favors is probably going to start for New Orleans, I believe. We'll have to wait and see. I want to see that one. If he does start, I want to play DeAndre Jordan at 5.4. he will likely see most of the bench, Jaleel Okafor or Jackson Hayes. DeAndre Jordan has been playing really well, and at 5.4, I'm totally fine. New Orleans is allowing the 10th most fantasy points to that center spot over the last 5. DeAndre Jordan, 42, 30, 28, and 33 in his last 4 or 5 games, fantasy point-wise. So DeAndre Jordan's been getting it done. He's been putting up double-doubles. I'm totally fine with him at 5.4, especially if Favors is starting. We get to see DeAndre against some of the scrubs off the bench. Frank Kaminsky at 5K, over 30 minutes in his last 2, 33 and 39 fantasy points in those. Even with Baines back, Kaminsky is still playing lots and lots of minutes. He's been playing really well, so that should continue. The Clippers, again, we know they struggle against the center spot. It's a good spot for Frank, and I'm totally fine with the price. Hopefully he gets 30-plus minutes. Biyombo at 4.8. Of course, against Sacramento at home, 24-plus minutes in his last 4. He's put up 26.8, 33, and 38 fantasy points in his last 3 or 4. So Bismack is also, of course, in a good spot. Alex Lynn at the cheap side as a punt if you want to. I've been on him for a couple games, and he's been producing. He's 4.6. He's played 20 or more minutes in his last 4. He's put up 21, 28.3, 35.8, 22.3, 33, and 37 in his last 6. So a couple games over 30 there, and, basically over 28 or more in his last 4 or 6. At 4.6, I believe that's a bargain. So that wraps it up. This is your Tuesday, December 17th edition. Hopefully everybody's going to make some cash to finish up that Christmas shopping, get their kids everything they want. Anyways, have a good Tuesday. We'll talk later, guys.